I'm beginning to think that Halsey may not actually be Halsey in the prison that Ackerson sort of has her in. Hi, I'm Will Forge, and actually the latest sort of little clips have made me think maybe not so much. So basically what my theory is that that's actually a hologram of Halsey being projected out of the subconscious of Cortana. It may not be the case. After that short little clip from the preview of next episode, I'm beginning to lean toward maybe she's actually Halsey there. But, you know, technically she still doesn't touch anything physical in that preview, and she's still a little bit, you know, it still could be. It still could be. So basically my theory is that this is actually not Halsey, and that Cortana is sort of in that same room because this is one giant server room. They're projecting Halsey's consciousness out of Cortana into that room so maybe they can interrogate her and find out maybe where Halsey would be hiding. That's why they had the tree that was, you know, that lit on fire. That this was sort of like them trying to get memories out of Halsey to, you know, be able to scan that portion of Cortana's mind and hone in on where Halsey might be hiding out in the galaxy somewhere. This all because they still have the bounty on Halsey's head. So why, if they have her in prison? Now, it could just be so that the Spartans don't think that Halsey is there, so they don't try to break her out. Yeah. That's an obvious one, and that's probably what it is. You know, this preview, you know, it kind of punches a little hole in the theory. Not entirely, but just enough to say, I don't know, it looks kind of iffy. She looks like she's walking out of the hologram section. Maybe whenever she walks out, there's still a hologram in the room, like a projector in the room that allows her to walk around the room. We'll find out next episode, that's for sure. And once we get to that, it's going to be, you know, it'll be cool if it turns out to be true, and it's cool if it doesn't. So anyway, I already talked about that in my last video. I'm not going to go into that one again. Not any additional detail. I mean, they had Soren come in, and whenever he entered, they just made a face at each other, and then they cut away. So they kind of still haven't shown anything that would really guarantee or like reveal that it isn't a hologram. So there is still that chance. But anyway, I'm moving on. We're gonna let that theory wait until next episode. But aside from that, in this episode we actually had this really interesting aspect to it where they kind of seemed to send a message to us, the viewers, and like sort of like say, hey, yeah, we're sorry for season 1 and things are going to be different. It was like a subtext. Listen, just I'm going to sort of play back the clips and then point out exactly what they're saying in the clips so that you can follow along with me. But basically, it really does feel like the writers were trying to, they made this a conversation between two characters that made sense in the story, and it did multiple things even in the story, but at the same time was sort of sending this subtle subliminal message almost to try and tell us, hey, by the way, we're sorry for season 1. We are making amends and fixing things. Let's like, I'm actually gonna show clips and try and like walk through it.
We didn't know the mission wasn't authorized. Me, Riz, Vanek. We were in the dark.
So right off the bat, you know, she's saying that we didn't know the mission wasn't authorized, and it almost feels like at the time it's just part of the dialogue. But in hindsight, after you see the rest of this, you're going to look back and say, okay, maybe that was part of it. And in that sort of like frame of mind, I will sort of interpret this as well, is that this almost sounds like writers and, you know, people who are on the project now are talking about season 1, and they're saying, we were in the dark, we didn't fully understand everything that was happening, and we didn't know that season 1 was going so poorly, or something to that effect.
And for the record, Chief was just doing what he thought was right.
Well, that's what concerns me.
So whenever she says that, you know, Chief was just doing what he thought was right, it kind of sounds to me like either the people in charge or maybe even Schreiber himself, where she's just trying to say like, he's doing what he thought was right as the directors were telling him to do it. He was trying to follow all the steps that he was being told to do it. And so taking off the helmet, the nude scenes, all that stuff from season 1 that was like iffy. Schreiber was just sort of, he was trying to be Master Chief as he was being told to do it. And then sort of Ackerson kind of comes in and is like the voice of us, the audience, and he says, that's what concerns me. And I just think that's funny. It's like, I don't know, it's a good sort of nod.
Look, I appreciate you coming down here to advocate for your CO.
The Chief went outside the chain. There needs to be discipline. I get that.
But then she says the chief went outside the chain. There needs to be discipline. I get that. And it kind of, well, he says, thank you for coming down. It feels like, thank you for making a season 2 and all. But, and then she cuts him off and says the chief went outside of his chain of command. And I get that. And he needs some discipline, right? And the great thing about this is that not only is it talking about the scene and doing things that the scene is trying to do, but it's actually doing more than one thing at a time, even within the message to us. Because Master Chief from season 1 went outside of the chain of command and needs some discipline because he even did the thing with Mackie in, whenever she was a prisoner of war, and this is actually against the law, at least in US military and several other militaries around the world. He should be court-martialed and kicked out of the military for what he did in season 1. But also, it's sort of like now the chief is not Schreiber and it's not Master Chief. They're saying the chief, as in the person in charge of season 1, stepped outside the chain of command or whatever, stepped outside of the story arc, of the actual Halo story, and needs to get some discipline. I get that, she says, basically saying the people in charge messed up in season 1. I get that. We are trying to fix it. And it's just like, keep listening. I promise the whole thing makes sense.
But we're not built to sit around and wait. It's not good for us. We need to be in the fight.
But we're not built to sit around and wait. It's not good for us. We need to be in the fight. That's what she says, and that's a great way of like the film people, the film crew need to do their job, and they need to get it done because they also need to get a paycheck and they need to get stuff on their resume. They're not just going to sit around and not make season 2, is what they're saying.
I'm not going to change my decision.
I'm not asking you to.
I'm not going to change my decision. I'm not asking you to. This is great because it's just like, it's the fan base saying, I don't care. Don't make season 2. Cancel the whole show. There were a lot of people who said that after season 1. And I'm not one of them. I felt like season 2 might have been able to be fixed. I didn't know how they were going to fix it. I expressed how distraught I was. And I did say that I would like them to change the genre back to a war film because at least the vibes would be right and everything would be right. But I had no idea how specifically they were going to fix things like Mackie, and that scene specifically. And some of the other things they made huge mistakes with in season 1.
We are at war, sir. We're still the best weapons you have.
Are you suggesting I deploy Silver Team without its leader?
No, sir. Just me.
So then she says, we are at war, sir. We're the best weapons you have. And I'm just saying that I think this might be, just Paramount is saying, listen, Halo's been being turned into a TV show for like 15 years or something like that now. They've been trying and trying and trying, and it keeps failing, and Paramount is our best bet at ever getting it at this point. That maybe in the future some unknown entity might be able to pull it off and take over, but for right now this is the best we've got, sir. You know what I mean? And so basically he says, do you think I should deploy you then? And she says, no, sir. I think the idea here is just trying to tell us, listen, don't just forgive season 1, but we are the best chance you have. Please let us stick it out. We need to be in the fight, is essentially what they're saying here.
Just me. Temporarily. Till John's cleared.
But then she switches. She says, no, sir, just me until John is cleared, right? And the funny thing about that is that in season 1, everyone loved Kai. Everyone universally liked her character, and she was like the best thing about that season. So saying, listen, deploy me until you have cleared Master Chief, until you've cleared him of the bad writing that was in season 1, of all the mistakes that were done in season 1. Deploy me, sir. Make sure that the fans who liked me can at least get something good out of season 2. So I think we're going to see a little more of Kai in this season than you might expect. Almost like a 50-50 share of the load between her and Master Chief. And because she's requesting to be deployed, this actually might mean that she is going to do something that Noble Team did in Halo Reach. Assuming they don't have Noble Team at all, she might end up being Noble 6. And she might die in the process of saving the show here. So, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go from here, but I really like her as a character, and I hope she continues. In fact, I kind of hope she is the Linda, that she gets heavily wounded and put in a cryotube and comes with the Pillar of Autumn to the Alpha Halo, and then maybe even they like heal her while there, because Linda had organ damage that made it to where they had to clone her new organs, and the Pillar of Autumn wasn't equipped to do that in the, you know, in the novels and in the games, at least not in the time frame they had. And so whenever they got to the Alpha Halo, they jettisoned her cryotube to keep her alive before they crashed on the Alpha Halo, and Master Chief actually picks it up in a Pelican. Anyway, let's get back to the thing. I'm sorry for deviating.
And if he's not?
He's the chief.
Then Ackerson says, and if he's not, and she says, he's the chief. Like, of course he's gonna get cleared. Master Chief is Master Chief. We messed up in season 1, but he is Master Chief. If we pull him off, you know, anywhere close to the games, he will be a good character. And so it kind of shows that they are confident they're going to be able to scrub that clean. We are not going to have to worry about season 1.
20 minutes ago, John incapacitated the soldiers assigned to monitor him and escape this facility.
What?
So then he pauses, and I think this was supposed to sort of be the end of the message to us, potentially. I'm going to keep going as if it is the message just in case, but he does do that nice long pause, and then he tells her the Master Chief broke out of the facility and it, you know, left, basically. And she's like, what? And this is a, I don't know, this dialogue kind of sounds like the writer, I mean, in a way, Ackerson is representing the fans, and, you know, Kai is representing sort of the new writers, right, in this. So maybe it is still part of the message, and it's just like, at this point in the story, we just saw him go AWOL, and it's a little weird because Master Chief didn't really do that at this point in the story. So him saying, hey, Master Chief basically just went AWOL, and she's like, what? It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of funny, because it's like the writers being like, wait, he did? Okay, what are we gonna do to fix this? I don't know, it's kind of felt a little funny to me. It may not be part of, like, the same message anymore, like I said, at this point, because that nice long pause, but at the same time, it could be still part of it. I don't know, let's keep going.
Did he share his plans with you?
Plans? What? What plans?
Where is he?
I don't know.
Last time we spoke, I asked you if you had concerns about John's mental stability, and you said... Before what?
So then he questions her about if she knows where he is. Then he says, last time that I spoke to you, I asked you about his mental stability. And the funny thing about that is that season 1, you know, his mental stability was very unchecked. He tried to, you know, punch Halsey to death. I'm sure one punch would have killed her. So that one punch he tried to jump at her with definitely would kill her. But the point is that whenever, you know, he asks her about her, you know, Master Chief's mental state, this is almost like he's interrogating the writers to say, how far are you going to go to recover Master Chief? You've already broken his mental state. I questioned his mental state at this point, and I'm still questioning it because I honestly don't know if you guys can do, you know, the right job. And she's like being surprised and a little bit, you know, put off.
How long has this been going on?
I don't know.
Since Cortana was removed, or since John interacted with the Covenant agent?
So then basically he calls them out for the 2 major flaws that were in season 1 that like everyone hated about Master Chief's story. Obviously there's like Quan Ha stuff and, you know, some stuff over with Soren that people were a little bit annoyed with, and obviously Mackie. But Mackie is kind of mentioned here because it's how Master Chief, you know, interacted with the, you know, agent. But anyway, the point is that what it seems like here is that him still representing the audience is still drilling the writers with what we all wanted to be fixed about Master Chief, and this is like the writers sort of listening. Like, Kai isn't breaking eye contact, she's listening, she's responding correctly, she's being surprised by people's reaction to it, maybe, like they were like, whoa, I didn't think the fan base would be this hostile to this concept. And so in a way, it's actually very nicely sort of framing the way that they reacted to it.
I reviewed the file.
What are you implying?
You and I both know he's not himself.
And this is the part that this was the moment in this conversation that it suddenly occurred to me everything I had just heard and how much of a message it was meant to be. And he says, he read her Master Chief's file, and she says, what are you talking about? And he says that he's not himself. And this was me hearing the writers go, Master Chief from season 1 wasn't even Master Chief. The crap they pulled in that season was just wrong, and that they're trying to sort of reinterpret him to match. And this is Kai being surprised in the same way probably the writers were surprised during season 1 that this, that the fan base was so upset with the way the Master Chief was portrayed. I assume they thought it was all good ideas. Anyway, the point is that this is kind of interesting. This was the moment that suddenly made me think this was a subtext. This is a message to us. And this is all about the show and Master Chief, not just what's in the story, involving Master Chief. But it is also kind of interesting as far as the story is concerned, that they're going into the rogue Master Chief like, Halo 4 a little early. In season 1, it felt really badly done, so it wasn't interesting, it was just bad. Now it kind of is beginning to feel a little more interesting because the way it's going about it feels a little more... It's more in line with Halo. Honestly, like I keep saying, it's because it feels more war genre. What he's doing is that he's acting on a sense of dread, of underlying dread, and we, the viewers, get that same sense that something is amiss and that the war is getting worse and something is about to happen. And that's how we're happy that Master Chief is going rogue now. We weren't really as happy whenever he went rogue in the first one because it didn't make any sense and it was stupid. And this is one of the reasons that this kind of subtext, I think, message is being, sent to us.
Look, Kai, I want to share something with you, and this isn't me speaking as your superior. This is... Sometimes people don't get better.
This last line, I think, was great because it was about there's a part of the fan base that was not trying to speak to them like they're their superior, right? Like me. I was not trying to speak to them like I was superior to them in their writing ability. I was trying to just speak to them on a humble way. Now, I did that in Twitter, I did it on Discord, and a lot of people were joining with me and doing the exact same kind of messaging back to the writers that, listen, it's not just that we think that we are better at this than you. We don't. We think that you guys should be able to do it better because we know that you're better than this, and that it's at an underlying, level. It could just be done better. We know it can be done better because the games did it better. So, you know what I mean? Like, we don't need to know how to do it better. We've seen it better. You guys can do it better. You see what I mean? So he's not trying to say he's superior. He's saying, please, for the love of God, make it better.
He just needs time.
Sometimes we do more damage by holding on.
She says, he just needs time, and then he says, sometimes we do more damage by holding on. And I think this is a message saying that, listen, cut season 1, which is what we all were saying to them. Literally cut it, reboot, or if not destroy it. I mean, I was even saying maybe reshoot some of the scenes from season 1. You might be able to, salvage some of it. But, whatever. The point is, many people were saying just dump season 1, start over from scratch.
I can't stay and watch him.
I know.
Tell me what to do.
She says, I can't stay and watch him. Tell me what to do. And I think this was the moment that they were actually saying, listen, we are going to listen to you in this season. We're already doing it. We're already showing you a better, TV show already by the time this scene comes up. And this was them saying, we are actually listening to you. We are going to do it the way you say. Tell me what to do. So that whole time, Ackerson is representing the fan base, Kai is representing them, and it's really a good idea to do it the way they did it, because Ackerson is really direct as a person, but also he kind of propaganda, you know what I mean? And let's be honest, Twitter does all sorts of nonsense and propaganda. So the crowd is very well represented, I think, by Ackerson here. But then they sort of put their best foot forward. They chose the best Spartan for this job, Kai, who everyone liked, the character that everyone loved from season 1. They brought her in to put their best foot forward. This is representing them. And it's a really good pairing. And guess what? It continues on immediately into the next season about Quan Ha's story. So I'm actually sort of waiting to see if there's another similar message about, Soren's story and Mackie's story coming up in the later episodes. But at least, like last video, I talked about how the Elite snapped that guy's neck in episode 2 at the very end. And right after she told him to stop and she had to say please, and then he still broke the guy's neck. That was already a nod saying how they're changing for Mackie. So at this point, we've gotten a message about Master Chief being changed and improved for season 2. We're about to get one about Quan Ha, and then on top of that, we have, I might have missed it. Maybe in episode 1 or 2, there was a similar message embedded in there for Soren and, the changes they plan for him and how to improve his story. But his story was already kind of cool and a little interesting. So I don't know what much needs to change for Soren. They just need to tie him back into the main story rather than having him be a separate story. That's all they need to do. And maybe they did send a message earlier that he needs to go, he needs to get into the fight, and I just don't remember it. Maybe his son said something about Spartans, maybe? I don't really remember. But I might go back and look at that, maybe prepping for next episode. But if it's in there, it probably is already in there. Maybe you can help me find it. Maybe you can drop it in the Discord, either join my Discord and drop it there, or maybe just go down into the comment section here and describe it. If you describe it, I'd love it.
Sometimes it takes weeks to get here, sometimes months. Some never get here at all. We left Madrigal with 4 ships. We arrived with 1.
So right out of the gate, Quan Ha is saying sometimes it takes weeks to get here, sometimes months, sometimes people never get here at all. And I want to say that, like, I don't know if this is part of the message. The message might start whenever they sort of sit down, they sort of slump down behind this wall and they have a conversation. But it may start at the beginning of the scene because it leads immediately from the previous scene. And if that is the case, then this might be talking about the actors, the actresses, the writers, everyone. It takes a long time to finally get to a place where they can make a TV show like this. And she's talking about it in a very sad way, in a sort of somber tone. And I think the idea is to say, listen, we want to do this. We don't want to get fired. We really want to work on this. And she's just trying to show that they went through a lot of work to get here and they want to continue, basically. She also talks about the ships, that they had, and that there was down to only 1 by the time they got here. And I feel like maybe that is a sort of representation of maybe some like resources they had to make season 1, and then the resources sort of got diminished or like the, rug got pulled out from underneath their feet or something like that. I'm not entirely certain, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is part of the message and this is all, included.
You see that? It's where they process you before you're indentured. It's not free. Nothing's free.
So then they show that line of people, and she says, this is where they process you, it's where you're indentured, and she says it's not free. And yes, it's talking about what she went through as a character, but it's also sort of, in a way, showing like a bunch of extras lined up, walking into a room to go do work, right? And it's kind of interesting to me that maybe this represents her saying that TV shows are not free. It's all very expensive and it's hard to do, and everyone here is working as hard as they can to get to this position. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm like, as soon as I saw that stuff from the first part, this part started interpreting this way as well. And then they slumped down, and it's really pretty clear to me that the part after they slumped down is definitely part of the message.
I'm sorry for what happened to you.
So I'm not sure in this particular conversation who represents who. I think Quan Ha represents Quan Ha in this conversation and the actress. But whereas Soren's wife, Layra, is representing more like, I think, the writers, and they're sort of talking to the character and the actress. And she says, it's not right what happened to you, or I'm sorry what happened to you, something to that effect. And so whenever she says, I'm sorry for what happened to you to Quan Ha, it kind of feels like an apology to the actress as well as the character, that the character's writing was not good in season 1, and they're apologizing for how badly it went and how heavily the fan base backlashed against the character, and how whenever fan bases backlash against characters, some of the people who probably someone who has some mental instability or something to that effect starts like making death threats and all sorts of bullshit about that, and it's awful. And the fan base, did do that to Kwan Ha's actress, and so I wouldn't be surprised if if that's what this is supposed to be about.
Don't be. Most people have it worse.
Then Kwan Ha turns and says, "Don't be. Most people have it worse." Obviously, in the story, she just was going through slightly less terrible things than a lot of the other survivors. But anyway, I think what Kwan Ha is saying here represents the actress basically saying, I don't know, my sort of job here, I've got full dialogue, main character role, and you guys are sticking me around for season 2. This isn't the worst thing to have in, basically in Hollywood. But also, like, some of the other characters, like Mackie, got it even worse as a backlash. And so I kind of feel like maybe that's all what she's saying, all of these things at one time. And it's really interesting to me, all of this sort of subtext. I swear, I do think this is a real thing that they did on purpose, and it's not a coincidence. Because it's back to back. It's 2 long conversations between characters back to back that actually fits the same bill.
Sometimes I think I deserve it. I'm being punished. Don't talk like that. It's true. I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't my life.
Then she says, and sometimes I think I deserve it. And I want to point out that that's kind of like maybe the actress is saying, I think that the writing in season 1 for my character was not that great, and that I kind of agree with the audience. If that's the case, if she does actually think that, then I wouldn't be surprised if that's literally what this message is that the actress is saying this, or maybe the writer for the character. And then she says, I'm being punished. She says, I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't my life. And this is all like, I think this is saying the fan base is punishing them for writing in this character that doesn't fit the storyline of Halo, that the events that are happening don't really make sense, that she's drawing, too much attention away from the main plot. She's pulling things away that are kind of ruining the whole thing. And that's her saying that basically, yeah, she's being punished by the fan base for her character being not very good. And actually, I think this is the character's like sort of self-identifying in a way as a message to us.
I failed my responsibility to my people and my planet. You can't blame yourself for that. I'm Kwan Ha.
And then they sort of like point out one of the flaws in season 1. She says that she failed her responsibility for her people, for her planet. And, but basically in season 1, they did there was no war going on there. What didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was tied into anything else. And so she was just going around this weird, teenage angst trip through the desert, as I keep describing it. What I think the message here is supposed to be is that they're like, yeah, her story didn't make any sense in season 1. She was just doing this nonsense stuff that didn't really play any role in the story, and so they were kind of apologizing for that. And she says, you don't need to be sorry for that, or something like that. And then Kwan Ha says, I'm Kwan Ha. And it just sort of, it's a great message to say, in the first season, you'd expect her to be the child of an insurrectionist leader. She then takes over that insurrection and maybe scrambles to fight against another insurrectionist leader who's trying to take over her turf. That sort of was what happened, but it ended up being this weird romp through the desert that didn't make any sense. And the way that I feel about it is that maybe what they're saying here is they're like, that's what everyone expected whenever they saw what she was, and then they engaged in a war film genre, right? This is what Halo should have been. She should have been doing that, but she didn't do that. She went on to do all sorts of other nonsense, and it didn't make any sense in the story, which is what she was just apologizing for earlier. So now she's sort of saying, I'm Kwan Ha. I should have done what the audience expected me to do, at least in some part, so that the twists can come along the way, along the path that they expect, so that the things that they don't expect happen at least along the route they expect. And it's sort of something that would actually play into the main story, like Master Chief and the Covenant and all that, rather than this weird romp through the desert.
My family protected Madrigal for more generations than anyone can count. And when it was my turn.
So then she says, my family protected Madrigal for more generations than anyone can count. And that was what was stated in the first season about her. I believe she says that to Master Chief whenever he very first rescues her or something. And then she says, but whenever it's my turn, and she basically huffs. And basically this is just the final nail that's sort of nailing down this whole idea that she's saying, I should have been a war leader. I should have been doing what the character's backstory established, so that like what happened had nothing to do with the original backstory and what her father was, and then even her father dying. None of that, like that all set her in a trajectory that was completely different storyline than what we got. It, like, I would not expect her to behave the way that she did in the season 1 at all from any of that information. And that's one of the things that, yeah, I think they're just sort of apologizing for that, and her saying, I'm going to do that in this season. And now in the next time, we kind of get to see a little bit of that, or some hints at that anyway. So hopefully that is the route they're going, and I'll be pretty excited if it is.
Wow. It's time to go. We can blend in. We have to move now.
So then the scene ends there, the alarm going off, interrupting their conversation. She says, we have to move now, we can blend in, let's go. And it's great because that's sort of her saying, okay, we got season 2 going. Season 2 is like, the alarm is like the action, right, for season 2. And so the action is starting in the scene because she's getting up and walking and not talking anymore, right? And so it's like action. And then she's going and she says, come on, we can blend in, which means she can get her plot line to orient with the rest and actually mesh well with everything else going on. So that's the end of the messages that I noticed in this episode. And they're just, I know it's a lot of me reading into things that maybe isn't a message. It's just all so coherent that I really do think that this conversation is the characters having conversations that are doing something important in the story, but even like some of it is less important than it would seem. And so I think that it really is that additional layer of message being sent to us, the audience, saying like very directly almost, this is how we messed up with Quan Ha. This is how we messed up with Master Chief. These are the things we're going to do to sort of fix them. We will smooth them over and make them work. Again, we haven't gotten a direct message about Mackie yet from any of the episodes so far. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing one in the later, but we also got that really brief, sort of rough message from that elite. So all that's left is Soren. If you guys know another one from Soren, like I said, come down, go to the comment section, let me know, or join my Discord in the description of the video, and come let me know there or something like that. And maybe even there you can like actually send me a clip of it, and that would be pretty dope. Anyway, let's move on with the episode because there's a little bit more in it. So first off is we see, multiple times they keep on calling Keyes Admiral Keyes, and they're going out of their way to say his rank, which is good because it's a military, you would say his rank. But it's also good because it's sort of driving home that he's an admiral right now. And then he goes and he sort of questions Ackerson in a way that, Ackerson even threatens to like strip him of rank, potentially, discharge him or whatever, because he doesn't seem to be following orders, or at least he gives him a look. Ackerson even goes so far as to say to Keyes, Admiral Keyes, can I count on you? And then he says, go fuck yourself. And it's great because like he calls out the Admiral Keyes part. And that's a weird thing because in the games, he's Captain Keyes. He's not Admiral yet. And for him to be Captain of the Pillar of Autumn, I mean, he can be an Admiral on a ship, but I mean, most likely he'd be on a space station or on the planet while he's remotely commanding the fleet of ships. So it seems a little odd that he would end up being a captain. Maybe he's, demoted before the end of the season. And at some point he actually like breaks, rank, he does something wrong, and whatever he does, it's enough to get him demoted down to captain, and then they deploy him in a ship. Or maybe he demotes himself somehow on purpose, and so that he can go fight. Maybe this scene is him saying, go fuck yourself, I am gonna fight, because he basically tells him, I want to fight. And so that's him saying, I'm gonna demote myself so I can be in a ship, so that I don't have to leave with the rest of the Admiralty, with the rest of the commanding officers. I get to stay behind with the ships and defend the planet. And that might be a thing he's gonna do in the, in this season, and if he does, it'll be a ballsy move, a very Keyes loop style, Captain Keyes ballsy move, and it'll be very, cool for his character. So I look forward to that if that's the case. Now, of course, all throughout this episode, there's been Ackerson's father, and Ackerson talking about how there are things and people on Reach that are valuable to him, and all sorts of stuff like that have been really great. I really love it. There's also this point where Quan Ha comes in and sort of like Chronicles of Riddick style takes out like everyone in the ship to save Layra and her son, and it's pretty badass. I did feel like it was a little bit action hero-y of her to do that, the way they portrayed it. They didn't really show the ship crew as being anything scary. Quan Ha was the scary thing, which wasn't really exactly right for like a war genre. It felt a little bit iffy, but they did frame it a few times with them having conversations where they spoke like they were in a war, like, you know, don't make eye contact, you know, emotion, like a strong emotion on the face, reacting in certain ways. Anyway, basically they had a couple of tropes throughout that kind of kept it in line. I think the idea was that, you know, it's supposed to be from Lyra's perspective, and so the dread was supposed to be them torturing her, but then like the clicking, you know, the tapping that that Kwan Ha was doing to lure them away was actually kind of not really making it scary. We actually kind of all, at least I predicted it was Kwan Ha as soon as I heard the tapping and saw him tell them to go find it. Anyway, it's pretty cool though. In a way, it was almost like she was the alien in Alien, you know, the very first movie, and that like all of the crew were going off to go figure it out and solve this problem or that, and each one was getting picked off one by one by the alien's, you know, dagger tail, but in this case it was an actual dagger. I don't know, it was a weird vibe, but it worked okay. It didn't take me out of the mood of the whole episode. It just felt a little bit off whenever we got there. But that's not how the episode ended, so they got back into some really good stuff later on, especially with like the prayer. That was great. Like the Singhili like message being sent was really cool. It was really kind of scary, almost like threatening, you know, and good for like a Singhili kind of message. I liked it. They described it as a prayer, and they even had like a religious human, you know, in a church explaining this to Master Chief because he wouldn't fully understand it. It was really good context. It made it to where, you know, a character that doesn't seem like they would fully grasp it or think of it this way would deliver it this way, which was good because we want it to be delivered this way because we're the Covenant, you know, we know what the Covenant are like. And then we want, you know, but like, I don't know, it would have to be like Cortana translating it to tell him it's a prayer, you know what I mean? For it to like make sense that whoever tells him would know it's supposed to be a prayer. Because like an AI that can sort of listen and translate and fully understands the language, you know, it's got to be someone who understands the language, and it's got to be someone who understands that they do prayers. So I don't know, it was just cool that a religious person was the interpreter of it, so it came out like a religious thing, and I just thought that was great. Overall, this episode was fantastic. I liked the messaging that they sent to us. I liked some of the other stuff. I'm really looking forward to finding out if that's actually Halsey or if it's a hologram. Either way, it will be cool. I like that Soren's there, maybe potentially going to rescue her, like the little preview kind of implied, maybe, and some other stuff involved. But basically, yeah, we've got this stuff going on all at one time, and this was a fantastic episode 3, and I can't wait for episode 4. It looks fantastic, and this whole, I really do think this season is going to pan out and actually be good, and we're not going to have to feel terrible about it like we did about season 1. That's going to be fantastic. I cannot stress how happy I am about that. Okay, anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video, and like, you know, we'll analyze episode 4 together. If you subscribe now, you're going to get more Halo content and other content about video games and film and all sorts of stuff like that. Catch you later, and see you next, video about next episode.